Firstly, all these problems have an economic aspect of inside. So you can't do without the economy simply nothing. And by the way, this economic aspect already has a direct impact on the situation with the solving problems. On the eve of the meeting on climate, it became known that the governments of some countries, Russia, China, and Australia, and even Japan, and even Australia, and even Japan, I would put it, United Arab Emirates, tried to influence experts to mitigate the hazard of assessments of those emissions, the reduction of which will negatively affect the economy of these countries. So it's related to what I said to you just before. It's a very clear example. The meeting on climate must start tomorrow or whatever. And some of the leaders even not coming there. For example, Xi Jinping is not coming, Putin is not coming, just exactly because of that problems. Secondly, there is a feedback. Unresolved and growing global problems are becoming an increasingly serious factor affecting the economy. Thirdly, in general, it is very difficult to imagine how problems and issues related to the economy can be isolated from the global agenda. The world is changing, moving, and economics, like other sciences, are means of cognition, understanding, awareness of the changes taking place. On the eve of global related events, as a result of the pandemic, and the understanding began to come, yes, very slowly, but that the threat of a new economic crisis is not so much in the stock market. It jumps as in the deepening political crisis in the core countries of the world economy. That's what we see. Look at what's going in whatever country there is a signs of political crisis or political crisis itself. It is very, very, very simple to see, very, very clear. Yeah. So, however, with a growing understanding of the need to act, there are more and more unanswered questions. I want to suggest you a pyramid, which I prepared for you, of interrelated problems in this area. The crisis of the capacity of political institutions and trust in them on a global scale. The crisis of the capacity of political institutions and trust in them on the global scale, from the United States and Great Britain to India and Israel, even Israel. You know how elections were just appeared there. The threat of authoritarian approach, the growth of right-wing, radical, and even neo-Nazi movements on a global scale, the normalization of hate speech in mass media and politics, the narrowing of the space of civil society, the weakening and marginalization of leading human rights and other public organizations in Western countries. You know all those things very, very well, much better than I. Growing atomization and the emergency of an asocial society. The extreme strengthening and consolidation of income and opportunity inequality. Within and between the countries, within and between the countries. the prospect of the disappearance of professions displaced by artificial intelligence, with a sharp decline in demand and global economic growth. Climate change, increased frequency of natural disaster, the risk of flooding, of major megacities, and total pollution, mass extinctions of biological species. So I can continue all that. It's a little bit dark story. The problem of keeping artificial intelligence as a genetic engineering under the state and public control, the threat of genetic manipulation leading to extreme forms of social inequality, protection of elements of private life under the domination of total surveillance technologies. So the problems which I described have no answers until today. And it's have no common policy on that. This is the problem, that the mankind is coming to a new, let's say, fourth industrial revolution. And the major point of this fourth industrial revolution is that the developments in, let's say, new technologies are coming much faster than the people are able to operate with them and to understand them. This is the point of crisis, and there is no answer on that. And if you have a closed, untransparent government, like in Russia, for example, which is a kind of group, corporate group, if that kind of government have in its hands these new technologies, it's a big problem for the people, big problem for the humanity in this country, for all the people, because the repressions and the control is on the unbelievable level. In China, it's a state policy, but in China and in Russia, it's even just more special. They're simply using all these technologies. If they can use it against the elections in the United States, then you can imagine how they can use it inside its own country. So this is some points answering your question, economics and wider environment. So of course, economics is a part of everything, but there is no solution in economics itself. Wider environment goes to the questions of government, to the governments and societies. And there is no answers on very important issues with this. So we can go forward. That's what I want to say. It's endless story to speak on that, endless simply.